Echo left behind, vocals felt confined. Echo left behind, expectation got you losing steps. Echo left behind, light can make you blind. Echo left behind, echo left behind.
What is up, y'all? It is TTMPPed where the flow don't stop. We are back with a better podcast episode because we can only improve from here. So today we're going to talk about creative blockages. So you're having issues and you don't know what to do. TTMPPed is here to save you. Listen, I go through creative blockages all the freaking time. When I tell you there are like these long periods of time where I just don't have the urge to make no music. And even when I go and sit down, like I don't have anything that kind of comes out of me. Nothing's authentic anymore. So I feel like in those moments, I feel like you have to give in to that pause. I feel like a lot of times we want to make ourselves be like a machine. We can just keep producing more product. We have to realize, like, if we're having a burnout moment, like, take a second to kind of maybe refine that passion and understand that before all of this, like, eagerness was just joy when you did this. So if you're not feeling any joy and you're having blockages, it's probably because you need a moment to reflect. At least that's what I take with myself. What is a creative block and how do you personally define it? I feel like a creative block is being unable to be creative. Like, and when you try, there's no motivation. It's almost like you're forcing yourself. Around 2021, 2020, definitely around COVID time, I had to take a long pause from just making music. I don't know, it was like a moment. I mean, it could be because, you know, my voice, I wasn't really singing like that, so I couldn't really sing much anymore. So I kind of lost my confidence. And once I lost that confidence, I just stopped. And nothing gave me the motivation to continue. But I feel like in that period of time when I had paused, I did other things in there. I'm not just a musician. I have so many things about me that help to cater to me being a musician and help give me that motivation to make music. Like, you know, I feel like there's a drive that I have to make sure I focus on before I give into that block. Like, I guess I ain't give a fuck. At first I did. Like I said, it made me lose a lot of motivation and confidence, but then I had realized that this is a part of the process. What do you think are common causes of creative blocks? I feel like once you kind of get used to doing something the way you do it, like at least for me making music, like once I kind of found my flow, I kind of was looking for something new. I feel like when I create, I'm almost trying to search for some type of like end result, and I'll always like it. And sometimes I'll end with something that where I'm like, it doesn't feel finished, and I'm like, what can I do? What can I do? And I feel like stuff like that kind of puts me in this weird moment of trying to, you know, force this creativity out of me to try to answer that key, and it doesn't work. So I end up being blocked from it, you know, blocked from continuing on. How does stress or burnout contribute to creative blocks? I think it's one of the main causes. A lot of the times I put a lot of pressure on my creativity and a lot of expectation, and then it creates a creative block because now I'm trying to create something out of like stress. And I feel like creativeness, being creative, is a very free energy. Anything that kind of is forced into it, there's not as much of a flow. The flow isn't there as much. How do you recognize that you're facing a creative block versus just a bad day? I think if the creative block lasts more than a few days, I do have creative blocks, but it only lasts like a day or two. But if like time is going by and I'm realizing I haven't made music in a long time, it's not even that I went to a creative block, I just kind of blocked it out of my mind completely. What are some signs that you're experiencing a creative block? I feel like signs would be lack of motivation, not remembering to do things, putting things off that you used to love, you know, not having the passion. Also being driven by other people doing it. I feel like a lot of the times I like not do anything for a long time and I see someone else do it and I'm like rushing back to that creative idea to try to like prove to myself that I'm still doing. But I feel like that's means that you've been in a block. That means that there's been a moment of time where you didn't even focus. And I feel like it's deeper than we think. Like a lot of the times there are so many projects and stuff that I toss to the side due to stress or fear of how long it's going to take or so many things like that, and I end up putting it off and blocking it out for months, years, and then good ideas end up being distant memories. We don't realize that creative blocks can really dig deep, which is why it's important to kind of nip it in the bud when it begins, because it can hold you back from progressing in your skill. How do you usually feel when you encounter a creative block? I feel annoyed as fuck, and I become very hyper aware that it's happening, and I remind myself that it is so that I don't normalize it, and I do the best of my ability to allow it to pass, but also stay focused on wanting to keep progressing. So, you know, kind of keeping in the back of my mind that I'm a creative and that this is what I do and that I'm just going through a creative block. How do you differentiate between a creative block and a lack of inspiration? I feel like it's still the same thing, but at the same time, I see what you like. Inspiration, if you're lacking inspiration, try to like look at your creative endeavor from a different perspective. I feel like a lot of times we just need to change how we're seeing it so that we can keep being motivated to continue on with whatever we're doing. But the creative block can end up manifesting from that experience. Like I said, I feel like it's all intertwined. Like once you kind of put things off or not or focus too hard on inspiration, you can end up putting things off because you're expecting something to come out of something. When sometimes you kind of just gotta like go with the flow of whatever is happening and work with what you got. Like definitely if you're an expert at your craft. What strategies do you use to overcome creative blocks? Because I consider myself an expert at my craft, I try to just do something else that's not as like the same realm of, I try to make a different song. So if I have a song in mind and it's not coming out the way I wanted and I'm already feeling that procrastination, I'll try to do a song in replacement so that I'm not wasting that flow that I could still be getting into that I'm probably just not in because of the lack of inspiration or I don't know what to do. How important is routine in preventing or overcoming creative blocks? I'm realizing lately that a routine is important. I feel like because sometimes because I don't have a routine, I'll end up having all these other ideas that I don't end up finishing because I'm like, you know, I'm not really like giving myself a time frame or anything. I'm kind of just like jumping in the pool balls deep, and I feel like I don't know, when you do that it's risky because there's that possibility of neglecting ideas, neglecting self, and then doing other things and making little things bigger things when it wasn't supposed to be that big. What role does self-care play in overcoming creative blocks? It's very important. Like, you know, if you feel yourself kind of going down that low slope, taking care of your temple is key. Every time I go on that slope, I still try to keep myself in that going in the gym, eating healthy, going to sleep routine so that when I'm out of it, I didn't ruin anything in the process. And I also try to, like I said, trying to do a song in replacement so that when I come out of it and I'm finally able to go back to that project, I have other things that I've been working on regardless, so there's no time was lost. Even if it's like 3 notes of like bullshit. My EP, a few of my EPs are just like older songs that like I had to step away from. And once I finally focused on something completely different, it was way easier to go back and just fill in the blanks instead of focusing on it like really deeply. I used to focus like very heavily on like one project, and I would end up, it would take me, like one time I had this song called At Nightfall, and I had showed my friend, and I was like, what do you think about it? And she was like, oh, it's a lot of harmonies, I don't know how I'm liking it. And because of that, like I took a long time to finish it because I kind of understood where she was coming from, and I didn't do anything in replacement, and that was time that I could have been making other music. Like I kind of, it just teaches me the lesson of doing stuff regardless. Don't allow something to stop you. How to use external inspiration such as nature or other artists to overcome blocks. I feel like sometimes it is good to watch other artists that do what you do and get inspired to like keep doing what you do. Because one time I was in a really low point in my creative endeavors, and sometimes I get like overwhelmed and I'm like, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? And I had watched that movie on Disney Plus about, what's that dude that made the Muppets? I forgot his name. But after watching that, I was reminded that, like, you know, that's me. Like, I'm a very creative dude. Like, I have to remind myself to keep doing it even when I don't want to, because this is what I want to do. At the core, there's just days when I might get overwhelmed or taken aback. How important is it to have a creative community or a support system when dealing with blocks? It's man, that's so important. I'm at this point where, you know, my support system is it's interesting. I'm building it from the ground up. So it's like having those individuals that are like, you know, keep going, don't stop. It's important. Definitely the ones that understand it and like it as much as you. You know, I feel like when I do meet people who kind of see my music the way I see it, and they give me like this advice that's like perfect, and it's that voice that I play in the back of my head when I'm this is gonna be good. Like I'm like, someone's gonna do this is good regardless, because they see my potential and my talent. It is really good to have that support system. You know, try to be around other artists that just get it, so that when you are having those, you know, you'll understand that that's normal and it's a part of the process. Which is why, you know, it's important. It's good to have people that normalize the hard times, so that, you know, it's something that you'll easily get through. What advice would you give someone experiencing their first major creative block? Take a deep breath. It'll be over soon. Maybe not today, maybe not even tomorrow, but as long as you be creative regardless, even if it's not in that exact project, it will come. That being that was there when you started it will be there again. I'm realizing that we have to go out and chase that, and I feel like I forget that often. I'm like waiting for the motivation to knock at my door when I'm the one trying to find it. You know, like you got to be the one to knock on the door and be like, it's time to create. And usually, I saw this video that's like, the hardest part for creatives is really sitting down and getting started, because once we get it started, it is easy to get in that flow. And if it's hard, give it another shot. And if it's hard, I'm learning to kind of push through what's hard and give it a few more shots, because I usually break through the difficulty and break through that block. So kind of just keep pushing. How do you stay motivated when you feel creatively stuck? Sometimes you won't feel motivated. That's also a hard lesson I had to learn. Like, there are going to be days when, like, it being hard and difficult, it's the same as learning to ride a bike. Like, you just push through regardless, even if you don't want to, because the ending result will be worth it. Like, it's like going to the gym, it's like learning how to cook, it's like learning how to do anything. Like, you have to keep going even in them hard times, so that the physical therapy actually works. You can't just pick a day. You can't give in to the days where it's harder than the day was, you know. It's going to be a muscle you got to keep working out. And it's when you look back, you'll realize days have passed and you've stayed pushing and you've created regardless. I'm learning, once you learn how to really be good at your skill, it won't feel as fun as it was when you were learning it, because now you know it. It's like speaking. We don't get excited to know it. We can speak, but as a kid, I can remember not knowing how to read as a child, really young, and like, I don't even really remember when the words all made sense, but I do remember when I finished my first novel, and I was like, oh my god, like, I finished the entire book. Like, those feelings, it'll be worth it. You know, you have to give in to those hard times. How does physical exercise or movement influence your creative process? It makes me realize that I control my tempo. I control what's next. It's a very cool... I didn't know what people that went to the gym meant. And I definitely am not, I don't want to be a gym rat, but I do like going there, because it's created this consistent version of myself that I didn't know existed. That, like, there are days where I literally do not want to go, but because I'm just a person that goes, I go regardless, and I always feel better when I come out. When I come out, my next thought is to make music, because that's kind of just the way I am now as a person. You know, I'm realizing, like, having something that you're consistent in, that you can actually see the results in, it will ripple off in other parts of your life. It's cool, because it happens naturally. What role does experimentation and trying new things play in overcoming creative blocks? That's what you should be focusing on the most. Like, finding things to do other than what you do, because we are multidimensional people, and sometimes we tend to get lost in, like, these ideas of what, like, that artist or whatever creative should be doing, but we should be able to dip our toes in everything. I like to try new things, do different things, because it helps for, first of all, something for me to talk about. Like, now I can bring those experiences to my music, to my craft, and actually talk about things instead of just only like knowing one aspect of myself, which is just creativity. How do you deal with fear of failure or perfection? You gotta just tell that shit to shut the fuck up. I feel like I have to learn that being a perfectionist does not do anything but withhold the process of finishing. It holds you back. I'm like, if it's good enough, I'm gonna do it. You can always revise. No one's breathing down your neck. I mean, if someone is breathing down your neck, then give it everything time, because time is very important. We are given that for a reason, so you can use it. So like, you know, but if you're able to have that leeway and you're creating the experience, I do feel like being a perfectionist is pointless, because we aren't perfect. That word was literally man-made, that we created an English word that we created to describe something being what we identify as flawless. But that's a very cultural, just all that point of view that doesn't even fucking make sense. How does changing your environment help overcome creative blocks? That's also key. Get the fuck out. Change up what you do every day. Change up where you go, who you know, because sometimes what we do in our day-to-day can be holding us back from a version of ourselves that needs to be expressed. And holding yourself back and biting your tongue and not really experiencing life can be why you're having a creative block, because you're not evolving. And I feel like evolving, you need to see what's out there in the world. Like, the more that I travel, the more I meet people and other energies, the more my whole perspective is broadening. My brain is a big ass white space with that Caillou scene where it's just like beings and just faded out characters and scenes and movies and shit. How do you use meditation or mindfulness to deal with creative blocks? I do need to get into my meditation time. Like, comment down below if y'all, you know, or if you're listening to this, shoot me an email or something if you want to have meditation time, or like me do like guided meditations. I'm so down for that. I do a lot of mindfulness because I feel like when I meditate, I don't know, like I'm always like, I should be meditating more, but I do like to do a lot of just quiet, just times where I let my brain just be quiet. I guess that's meditating. And when I do that, I usually get my ideas, and I usually have time to like reflect and just understand what the fuck is going on in my little noggin. Because I do feel like we can get lost in our own minds, and I feel like when you're able to just exist with the world, you're able to just let whatever your brain wants to come through successfully without controlling it too much. What roles does sleep and rest play in overcoming creative blocks? I used to not take sleep, like, I used to not take sleep serious, but I realized the more sleep I get, the better I feel throughout the day. Like, I get so tired and I don't sleep much, and I feel like I'm yawning now. I feel like them long nights and early ass mornings don't cut it. Like, you have to let your brain regroup, like get its juice back. It's important. We need to rest. When I wake up well rested, I wake up early and I wake up refreshed. I don't know. It's so much better to get some rest at night than staying up and definitely being on my phone. I can't. I used to sleep with the TV on too. I can't even do that no more because I feel like it's just another distraction in my mind. How do you handle deadlines or pressure when you're facing a creative block? I get the shit done. You gotta get it done. Get it done. You gotta pretend like there's shit on the fucking line. Sometimes I don't take my shit serious and I'll be like, bro, like, wake the fuck up. I could die tonight. Get it done. Like that. I don't know. Sometimes you have to have that kind of voice in your brain. Like a drill sergeant, get it done. If there's a deadline, there is no time to be going through a creative block. Get it done. Find a way to get it done. Do other shit. Find that inspiration. You gotta be tough on yourself and tell yourself, wake the fuck up. Of course, it's harder said than done. But that's why you got to get into that practice of learning how to get through and do things in replacement so that you can get used to doing it regardless. And you will train your mind to do what it needs to do regardless on how you feel. Because sometimes the feelings will hold you back from progressing. And that's pointless of evolution. You know, you want to grow. What roles do hobbies or activities outside of your main creative focus play in overcoming blocks? That's the same thing as just, you have to experience life. Different hobbies, try different things so that you can see how everything is kind of created. You kind of see behind the scenes that everything is the same energy, which is why it's, if you can't find that energy from what you do, you can find it from another thing that you can do. There's so many ways to get back to that source energy, and then you can transfer it back into what you do. Easier said than done, and that's for another podcast episode. But like I said, get it done. You can do it. How important is it to revisit, reflect on your past work when facing a block? Always go back to your old work. Everything is made for a reason. You're not just a waste of conscious space. Maybe you are. Maybe that's what you identify with. But I believe that all my ideas are platinum gold. And with that being in mind, always keep it and reflect, because you can always build upon it. You never know what you can do. You never know what something can lead towards, or what it was supposed to lead towards. You never want to block yourself from potential, What are your final thoughts or advice for anyone struggling with creative block? Is don't let it fool you. Understand that it's a process, and that you are already a creative being. So, sometimes you can have days where it's hard to just give into that, which is when you can do something else. And utilize your time to continue to, evolve into who you're supposed to be. Don't allow it to stop you. I used to let things stop me, but now I'm like, fuck that shit. Like, I'm just going to keep it pushing. And if I can't keep it pushing, I'm going to take a moment of reflection. Take a break. It's okay to take a break. Don't get so hell-bent on getting shit done unless you have a deadline. If you can take a break, take a break. Let yourself find your joy in who you are and what you do and why you're here. Take a moment. Don't be afraid. And that is today's episode, y'all. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Add this to your likes, your playlist. Do whatever you gotta do. TTMPPedFlowover is going to be flowing all year. So sit back, relax, and we got a lot coming. Check out my website at TTMPPED Timped Universe. Check out my music at TTMPPED. And let me know what you think. I love comments. I'll see you.